Hello, welcome. This is EduPeriodic and welcome to all in a new video. And this new video is all about properties of matter. In previous video we discussed what is matter. So basically properties of matter are two types, physical and chemical. We learn both of them one by one. First one is physical properties. Physical properties are characteristic of matter that can be easily observed or measured without changing the substance chemical compositions. Like if I have a 1 gram of salt, that is sodium chloride. So with the help of color and texture, I easily identify that is a salt. And other hand, if I had 1 gram sugar, so yes, with the help of color and also texture, I easily identify this is sugar. So this is physical properties that can be easily observed. Okay, physically properties are two types, intensive properties and extensive properties, and both dividation depend on their own character. So let's take example both properties one by one. First I take example extensive properties, and extensive properties are depend on size or amount of the substance present. If we double the amount of the substance, the extensive property will also double. That is very simple and easy definition to identify that extensive property, that is size or amount of the substance. So if I take example, the first example is mass. Yes, mass is always total amount of substance, and it is represent in abbreviation m, and its units are kilogram, gram, or milligram, and many other approaching units. So this is first example in extensive property. The next example is volume. And what is volume? Volume is the amount of space occupied by an object or substance, that is called a volume, and it can be cubic meter measured in cubic meter or liter or milliliter, yes, and other appropriate units. So as we see here, with the measuring cup, we easily measure volume, how much liquid we pour in it, 1 liter, 2 liter, 3 liter. If I take another example, the volume of rectangle, that the formula is volume equal to length into width into height. Yes. Next example is energy, and energy always present in matter. It's form of thermal energy or mechanical energy, and energy abbreviations are denoted by capital E. And if I talk about units, and that units are kilojoule, joule, and erg, that's are many other units in energy. Yes. Next example is mole, and mole in chemistry very important. It show the quantity of substance, and measured in mole. And the number of mole of a substance is an extensive property, as it depend on the amount of matter present. And in chemistry, today, a one mole equal to 6.023 into 10 to power 23, and this is Avogadro number, and it represents a 1 mole. And for all practical purpose, the mass of 1 mole of a compound in grams approximately equal to the mass of 1 molecule of the compound in Dalton. Okay, so take a look extensive property table. And definition of extensive property, yes, depend on the amount or size of the matter, and we already discussed example. The first one is mass, volume, and energy. Okay, so second one is intensive property. And intensive property, what are they? Intensive properties are physical properties of matter do not depend on the quantity or size of the substance present. These properties remains constant of the amount of matter and are often used to characterize and identify substance without considering their size or mass. Yes, there are some common example to understand intensive property. So yes, we easily learn in that means in means independent, and what terms of independent, they do not depend on mass or size, amount of um, substance, size or amount of substance, that is mass. Okay, I take first example, that is temperature. We know that temperature is a form of kinetic energy, and temperature is always expressed in degrees Celsius or Kelvin, and it remain constant for a given substance. And if we talk about room temperature, like it's 25 degrees Celsius and it's always constant, so it is called room temperature. Okay, next example that I take, that is pressure, and it's also a constant unit. And what is force? Force is the, sorry, what is pressure? Pressure is the force exerted per unit area and is independent of the quantity of gas or liquid present, and it is often measured in Pascal or atmospheric temperature, atmosphere. So yes, this is intensive property, don't depend on size or mass. Next one is boiling point. Boiling point is another form of temperature, and boiling point, that means convert to liquid to gas. Liquid to gas is called boiling point. Okay, and a substance boiling point is always constant. Next one I take, that is melting point, and melting point also a form of temperature, and melting point is called when a solid change into liquid. A solid change into liquid, it is called melting point. Next one I take, that is density. Density is the mass of a substance per unit volume. That means I write here density equal to mass of a substance per unit volume, and it is usually expressed in gram per cubic centimeter, gram per cubic centimeter, or kilogram per liter. If I take example, the density of butter is approximately 1 gram per cubic centimeter, 1 gram cubic per centimeter. So what is density? When comparing solid, liquid or gases, we see that their density depend upon the behavior of their particles. As we know, solids have more dense than liquid and then gas. So in solids, particles are very closely packed. In liquid, particles can slide over one another, while the gases have particles spaced apart and have random motion. So solids are more dense than liquid, and liquid are more dense than gas. So yes, their behavior depend on this character, and that is density. So density is a intensive property. We can say that because density is the mass per unit volume of a substance, and density called as intensive property because a small unit is present of densities across the specimen. That means if I take 1 gram, or if I take 5 gram, they could have the same density. Okay, if I take 1 gram or 5 gram, they could have the same density because it does not matter what amount of mass or what amount of volume is it. So yes, this is intensive property. And next one is refractive index. Refractive index is a measure of how much light is bent and as it passed through a material. If I take example, that example of prism, when it pass light, white light, then it's split into seven light, and what is the angle and what is light pass, it's always constant. Okay, next example if I take, that is electric conductivity. Some matter are more conductive than some are less. Like if I take example, copper is more conductive than gold. So it's intensive property and don't depend on amount of matter. Next one is color. With the help of color, we easily identify any matter. Like copper has a reddish brown color. So yes, it's don't depend mass. Next one is odor. Odor is also a visual appearance, and we can smell any substance like ammonia in public toilet. We easily smell it. That is very disgusting smell. Okay. Next one is solubility, and solubility also don't depend on mass, because when I solute 1 gram of sugar or 5 gram of sugar, it does not depend on mass, and sugar is highly soluble in water. Okay, next example, that is malleability. And malleability is the ability of material to be hammered or rolled into the thin sheets without breaking. Gold is more malleable than um, s- copper and many other metal. So yes, this is malleability feature. Yes, there is a simple table that can be easily identify every property. First one is color, physical property color, like red, blue, green. This can color easily be identify any matter, density, melting point, boiling point, and if I solubility, malleability, and conductivity. So these are their intensive property. Yes, next we take chemical properties. Chemical properties of matter describe how a substance interact with other substance and how it undergoes chemical changes. So chemical properties are all about chemical changes. How a matter undergoes chemical changes, it's called chemical properties. First one is flammability. Flammability is the ability of substance to burn or combust when exposed to a flame or heat. If I take two example, one is paper and one is wood. Uh, with the paper is highly flammable because it catch easily fire, and wood not easily catch fire. Comparison to paper. Okay, next one is reactivity. Reactivity refers to how readily a substance undergo chemical reactions. For example, sodiums and potassiums metals are highly reactive, and they react very speedily with water. Like if I take a reaction that sodium metal react water, and it makes sodium hydroxide and reduce hydrogen release hydrogen gas. Okay, next example is combustibility, and combustibility it able to catch fire and burn easily, that is called. And this is an important property to consider when a substance is used for being stored and being used. Like example, kerosene and wood and propane. And these all are very important, and their combustibility is highly. Like propane is used in petrols and cooking gases. Okay. Next one is oxidation. The loss of electrons during a reaction by a molecule, atoms, or ions is a proper definition of oxidation. If I take example, first one is rusting of iron, and rusting of iron is a chemical change that occurs when iron react that iron react with O2 and water in the air or environment. This is called rusting of iron. Photosynthesis, we know, is the process which green plants and certain other organisms transfer high energy into chemical energy. And this is also a chemical changes in the category of oxidation, and oxidation of metal, of course, an example of oxidation. Okay. Next one is corrosion, and corrosion is the gradual destruction of a metal by chemical electrochemical reaction with the environmental with the help of environment. And the example if I take, that is also a rusting of iron, and it is a natural process that convert a metal into a more chemically stable oxide. Next example if I take, that is toxicity. All chemicals are not toxicity. If I talk like mercury and cyanides are very contain toxic properties. Cyanide is also called a poison. So yes, some metals are toxic. Okay. Next one example is acidity and basicity. And acidity and basicity are all depend on hydrogen ion and hydroxide ion in a substance present. Like lemon juice is acidic, but when we talk about soap is basic character. Okay, so this is chemical properties. So yes, these are again a table that we easily understand chemical properties in a one frame. Flammability, we already discussed reactivity and acidity and basicity and toxicity, oxidation, corrosion, combustibility, and radioactivity. So hope there are some also example related and compare to each other. I hope this video helped you a lot, and if you like this video, please like and subscribe. And in the series of basic learning chemistry concept, continue. And till then, thank you and take care.